Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. On each episode, we interview recovering addicts and learn their story with addiction. Through exploring personal journeys, we get a glimpse of the depths addicts fall to and their path in recovery. We hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome, everyone, to the Fourth Step Podcast. My name is Kevin, and I am an addict.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm an addict.
Oh, that's great. Introduce yourself. Well, I was going to say I'm here with my co-host, Josh.
You pointed, so.
My name's Josh. I'm an addict.
Hi, Josh.
Hello, Kevin.
I pointed at you because we usually say, hi, Kevin, or hi, Josh.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, the usual greeting. So anyways, our guest today, her name is Tracy, and she's a ball of fun. And I've known Tracy for quite a few years. We have a lot of history together with service and meetings and all that. And today she's been gracious enough to let us hear her story. So,
where'd you come from, Tracy? You drove out here? I imagine you're from the Bay Area, Peninsula.
Yeah, East Palo Alto.
Nice. Thanks for driving all the way out here. Yeah.
So your clean date?
October 31st, 1996.
96. So I don't do math. Josh.
18.
27, almost 8.
Yeah.
I was way off, yeah.
See?
Yeah.
It's too early for math.
I'm trying to tell you, I don't even know what day it is, so.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you have like a long history of, at least in our relationship, a long history of like being the one person I can count on that you're going to tell me your feelings. And so I kind of look at you like the person that you wear your feelings on your sleeve, that kind of thing. And I've always admired it. Sometimes it's really uncomfortable for me because you tell the truth. And sometimes it's like hard to hear the truth about myself, you know? So I appreciate that about you. So how did you get started and getting loaded? Was it like childhood stuff or some, we always ask was there trauma in your childhood? What was that like?
Yes, I had a lot of trauma. I was fairly miserable at home. And when I did drugs in the beginning, I didn't have to feel that anymore. And so it was fantastic.
What was the first time you got loaded?
I got drunk when I was 12. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily that my first story was just, I got drunk and I got caught because we were at some party and we left and they brought me home back like to the school from, in a car and like dumped me out on the sidewalk. And then my parents came and picked me up from it. And so I got caught, which was, you would think would be horrible, but I remember like not being miserable anymore. And so that I was like, I want more of that.
Mm-hmm. What was the trauma like?
Like when you think back to the beginning, like things that stand out, if you're going over a 4-step and you're trying to look back as far as you can for things that may cause triggers today or just trauma that shows up, what does that look like young and how far back and what kind of stuff was happening?
So my mom has narcissistic personality disorder and my dad's an alcoholic. And
can you touch on what narcissistic personality disorder is?
Was that diagnosed?
No, most people who have narcissistic personality disorder are not diagnosed because they don't think that there's anything wrong.
So is this you diagnosed her?
No, this is been to therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists.
She has?
She has also, but not for her. I mean.
Oh, based off of your descriptions in therapy. Got it. Okay, got it.
And a lot of what diagnosis is for people in the mental health community is assessing symptoms of family members and the stories of what goes on for people who know them and how they behave in the world. And so I think that the first therapist that I started talking to who was like, I think your mom was in probably 2000 or so. And so it's been about 25 years of like reading and talking and therapy and groups and experiences, you know, and I have a degree in psychology.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's pretty cool you were able to get into therapy so early in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people in recovery put that off for a long time and are against it.
My mom took me to a therapist when I was 11. Because oftentimes people want you to change. And so, and they had a horrible divorce. As a good example of the chaos in my life, they took each other to court 7 times, like 7 separate.
That's kind of a lot.
Court cases.
For financial reasons or custody or both?
Both.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And you were how old when all this was going on? Like in your early?
Well, I was 11 when they finally split up. I was a story my mom tells a lot, which I think is a good example. She'll still tell it now. When I was 6, I told her that I wanted to run away. And she explained to me how if I ran away, I would have to get a job and I would have to like find somewhere to live and then pay for it and get groceries and stuff like that.
At 6, yeah.
At 6.
Of course.
And so I decided to stay at home. She
Mom
never quite realized, I think, that if your 6-year-old wants to run away, there might be a problem there. Like that's a kind of good example of like, it was a lot of mental manipulation and chaos in my house. And then my dad's an alcoholic who would basically just check out and like not speak for 3 days or he was in the basement for 2 years drinking and not working. He was unemployed and she worked. And it was just crazy in my house.
Wow.
I've had urges to want to run away my entire life. I still want to run away.
He does. He's talking about a compound out in the woods.
So are you, dude? We're talking about the same compound.
Mine's more like a commune.
Oh.
And not a fortress.
Yeah, I want a moat.
So do you know any history of your like mom and dad and their childhood?
Oh, yeah.
Was there? So I asked that because a lot of times our parents have gone through so much stuff when they're kids, they just pass it on.
They're just doing what they know.
They don't know any better.
Yeah. And I actually have been doing a lot of inner child trauma work lately and realized I had forgotten that I was like, what happened to my grandpa? Because I had this grandpa that I loved, and I kind of remembered my aunt it was her dad had said something, she's still alive, and I called her and I was like, why don't I know what happened to grandpa? And she said, your parents told you not to cry at the funeral and you weren't allowed to like talk or do anything. And then you never talked about it again. Like that was the role. Wow. And my dad had, his mom in the 50s had left his dad and lived with her grandparents, and her husband died gunshot in the basement, which was like questionable, probably accident,
suicide or murder.
And she said my grandma said at the funeral, we're never going to, or somebody said, that it was a question about whether it was suicide or not. And she said, we're never talking about this again. And nobody ever talked about it again. And so like, he just passed down what he knew. And my mom on the other side, like her dad was very controlling and crazy and had, parents that had come over, they were Russian Jews, and there was a lot of, trauma and chaos and stuff. And they also were like, do what you're told no matter what. And, and so they just carried on the chaos.
Yeah. So
what kind of stuff was happening as a child that would cause you to want to run away? Like what were some of like the prominent things that stand out?
So I was told, sit down and shut up, and we'll tell you when you're allowed to have a feeling if it's good only. It very much will give you something to cry about. Like feelings are not accepted.
Was that like the exact, like that was what you were told, or is that was just the overall kind of theme as a child?
No, my aunt said, your dad told you in front of you, you will not cry at the funeral. Or when I would cry, and I remember it's like, that's not important. There's kids starving in Africa. We'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah, that's a favorite of a lot lot of parents. Yeah. I'll give you something to cry about.
Mm-hmm, because
crying
my dad
because I have something.
Handle it. He didn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the capacity. He had lots of stuff, and he didn't want to look at it. And when somebody else is looking at their feelings, it potentially makes you uncomfortable, and then you'd have to look at your feelings, and he didn't want to look at his feelings.
Yeah, but doesn't that statement really
relate to that?
The statement, "I'll give you something to cry about," doesn't that make? Isn't that what is that? Ironic, because you're crying about something already. So,
but that's not good enough for some people.
In other words, they just stop crying.
Illegitimate tears.
Yes,
Yeah. Shut them off.
Yeah.
Let's gaslight your feelings right now.
Lots of gaslighting.
Yeah. So all that led up to you getting loaded that one time, and then the trigger happened.
I was triggered all the time. I was triggered.
I meant the triggered for your addiction.
Oh, yeah.
The obsessive compulsive desire to.
Instantaneous. I do think that when you're in trauma all the time, I read. Reading was my first. I would get in trouble because I was supposed to go to bed, and I would go in and I would read under the covers with a flashlight, hiding, but I could hear them fighting. We had the kind of vacuum cleaner you plug in, and so the whole house is connected by these tubes. There's a
whole house vacuum.
And so you could hear, even if they were in the basement, you could hear them fighting, and so they were fighting all the time.
Wow.
So I imagine, did it feel like pins and needles, like you're on pins and needles, not safe,
all the time,
constantly? Yeah, I can understand that feeling. Yeah, that sucks. I get that.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there violence?
But it was all you knew, so it was normal. And then now that you look at back, it's like I was never safe. I never felt safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was when I was 13, and I tried to find him one day, but I walked to school with this kid, and I would talk about committing suicide all the time. And he would talk me down, and I would go to school, and I had friends, and I would whatever. And then I would go home, and then I would be like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to blow my head off. And he would talk me down. And it was like my whole 13th year pretty much was I can't, this is insane. I don't want to do this anymore. Robert something.
Did you have violence in your childhood?
Not really. I had, Steve was talking about the, normal, you have to pull your pants down so we can spank you. Let's participate in our own violence, which in itself is a fucked up thing, but it was common.
Yeah.
But no, mine was mental. I had lots and lots of emotional abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of us, when we talk about that type of abuse, some of us have that locked away in a filing cabinet in our brain, and it just stays there, and it reoccurs every time that it gets triggered throughout our whole adult life too. Have you been able to address that?
Yeah, I have been addressing it for a long, long time.
Is there any closure to it? Trauma therapy? Well,
so I don't know about closure.
Closure as in you don't react emotionally towards it, but you acknowledge that it happened.
I think that my experience lately has been looking at how our history often causes us to be triggered now, and that the different things can come up and we get triggered. And the goal is, I've done a lot of work with different people, and one of the goals is actually when you're triggered, realizing that this situation is not the only thing, and then going in and doing healing work to take care of the little kid that's inside of me.
Yeah.
So that I can respond more appropriately in today's world.
Josh and I both have experience with that, healing with the little kid.
Mm-hmm. And the teenager and the
Yeah.
middle kid, you know, there's a lot of them.
Even the adult version, yeah. Like trauma from being an adult. I still do that too. I'm just now personally just starting to get to a spot where I'm very, very consciously able to respond and not react to a lot of stuff. Like I'll be like, whoa, dude, I am fucking internally, the little me is freaking out right now. And I can just kind of like, none of that is defining now, like, and separate from it. And then like, sometimes I can't respond right away. I have to like process and then I can come back and respond, but I'm not reacting as often anymore, which is huge. And it makes me so much more aware of how much I was living in a reactive state. Like I existed in that for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.
So you got a chance to go back and look at all this history. What do you remember about that from the first time you got loaded on in those teenage years? Was it that compulsive drive over and over to change the way you feel? Or did it take some years to get to that?
No, it was instantaneously. I wanted to change the way that I feel. I mean, that was the thing. Like when I got drunk the first time, I remember that I liked it. I didn't probably drink again then for a very long time because I like got drunk and I don't do very well with alcohol. But I remember then, not that much later, when I was 13, I smoked pot for the first time. And the first time it didn't work. I didn't feel anything. And I was like, but you know, like a good addict, I was like, let me try again. Because all these people are liking it, right? There's got to be a thing. And that's the time that I remember instantaneously. It took the trauma. Like I wasn't triggered. You know, I was so triggered for so long that I could like breathe. And so I wanted that. And I wanted that forever. And then I think when I was like a kind of a hippie a little bit when I was a kid, and I did a lot of hallucinogenics, and it wasn't until later,
How early did you start doing that?
13?
Yeah. So my mom caught me stealing her drugs when I was 13 and put me in rehab and tested me because she's
At 13 you went to rehab?
What drugs were they?
My mom caught me stealing her pot.
Okay.
And put me in rehab. And
so stupid.
Yeah. But and like when you fill out the paperwork, it said, do you or have you ever? And I was, part of the reason that I'm so honest kind of is because if they caught me lying, I mean, they did like, well, my mom, you know, there wasn't a lot of physical violence, but there was physical and mental stuff if I did things that were wrong. And when you live with crazy, you try and reduce the amount of crazy that you have to incur. So lying was not okay. So I was not allowed to lie. And so I didn't really lie because it was like a worse consequence if I lied than lying, which most of the time you're lying to get out of trouble. Sorry, I'm going to need to move this because I keep hitting it. Is that okay? Okay. And so they said, do you or have you ever like smoked pot before school, during school, after school? Have you drank alcohol? Have you drank anything? You know, have you? And so do you or have you ever? I had done all the things, but like I had done cocaine one time. I had, you know, but.
And this is at 13? This
is at 13.
So you'd already been through the whole gambit by 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, my addiction I was a kid and it wasn't that bad. Like I was still in school and stuff. I was just trying to get anything I could at any time. My first word was more, which I think is kind of funny. Like, you know, your first word when you're a baby. And so.
It is funny though. If you think about it, that's a good indication of life right there.
More.
Not more of the things that I like. Right?
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, well, you know, you should go to rehab. And I wasn't really, I wasn't an addict yet. I had done the things, but I learned about NA because they made us go to meetings. And then my mom tested me because she's a vet. And so she would like P-test me to make sure I wasn't, and you couldn't test for hallucinogenics. So I did a lot of hallucinogenics from 13. Maybe that was at 15. I'm sorry. I did all the things from 13 to 15. She put me in rehab at 15. And then I just did hallucinogenics from 15 until the day I turned 18.
And then game on. Yeah. So that's crazy that you went to your first NA meeting at 15?
1985.
Do you remember anything?
Absolutely. I had 6 months clean.
You're kidding?
No.
At 15? Wow.
Yeah. And I went to meetings. I had a sponsor.
Where at?
New Jersey.
New Jersey? Is that where you were living this whole time? Oh, we didn't even ask that.
Is that where you were born?
No, I was born in Indiana, but I only lived there for 3 months. And then they moved to New Jersey.
And then from New Jersey to the Bay Area? Or is there somewhere in between?
Oh, there's lots of places in between.
Oh, got it. Okay.
What's
So right
that?
now-
What is that? That face, like disgust?
No, somebody asked me recently, like, where have you lived, and tell me all the places. And I think there's 9 states and 15 different places or something.
Wow.
So right now, we're still in New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay. Still in New Jersey. You turned 18 and you started doing everything.
I left the day. That's not true. I left the day after high school. So I don't think I
So you were 18 and then finished high school and then left, or you?
I did.
graduated?
I actually left. So I turned. My birthday is the end of June. I graduated probably like the 21st. I was on a plane at 10 o'clock the next morning to go on Dead tour.
I'm sorry, what?
The Grateful
tour.
Dead.
Oh.
And so I left the day after high school. I was out. I'm out. I've like done
Never
the
going
thing.
back home.
Never going back home. So I graduated and went to the party and then got on a plane.
All right.
And so my using kind of took off then, but I don't think I drank or smoked pot maybe. I might have just drank. I feel like I waited to do something until the day I turned 18 just because I knew, who knows.
So it was kind of like Jerry Garcia's fault that you are this way? When you said you were...
It's a lot of people's fault that I am this way.
No.
Jerry Garcia was a helpful piece of the many facets of how I am this way.
There's something in what you said that earlier that
So
you
what
kind
you're
of
saying is
you kind of were a hippie early on too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I never really called you a hippie, but you were kind of free flowing flower child type of.
she did want to drink flower water when she got
I know
here.
she did.
That's true.
Yeah.
My daughter, when she was like, I don't know, it's young, 5 or something, she was like, "You're just a naturally naturey person."
You are. That's so
Naturally
true.
naturey.
Naturey. She just made that up.
Mm-hmm.
So you got loaded. You're out of high school. You're following the Dead.
Partying my ass off.
Partying your ass off.
You know what? I would like to say,
Yes.
when I got clean, when it was 1985 and I got 6 months clean, I knew that this program worked. Like I saw it. I saw people who had track marks and had families. I saw people who were addicts who had changed their life and made it. And I also was 15 and I would go and hang out at dances. We had a lot of dances and they played all kinds of music and I would dance and get sweaty and play and I had friends and I learned in NA, you could have fun and be clean.
Wow.
And so I knew where to go.
You filed that away.
Yeah. I absolutely knew that this program worked. And if you were an addict, you could come here.
Did that idea, like that concept of knowing that there's something different and like there is another option, and that it works, did you carry that with you while
Absolutely.
you continue to use? Did it fuck it up for you? Like, were you always like, fuck, I don't know if I should be doing this, or?
I don't really think, I didn't know I was an addict really. Like I was like, I did cocaine once. Like what the fuck, I'm a teenager and my parents are crazy and I'm going to smoke pot and like have braids and be on a rocking chair when I'm 80. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's kind of, I think, what I thought when I was 15. Like, if you were an addict, this was a place to go and you could dance your ass off and drink water, So I don't really think at that point I wasn't like, I need that program.
Yeah, but I think my question was like later on, while you continued using, having that knowledge that Narcotics Anonymous worked. Was it in your head like, fuck, I should go back to this place? Did it develop and progress to a point where you like had that memory? Like I asked because until I was in the rooms for an extended period of time, I truly did not believe that there was another option. Like I didn't know that, you know?
I didn't know it then. I got clean again and then got loaded again. And I think in between the second and third time of getting clean, I did know like what you're talking about then. I had it then. I didn't have it at 15.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You said you had a psychology degree?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what's wrong with Josh?
Not yet.
No, I'm kidding.
You know, so
Not
before
yet.
the podcast started,
not yet.
I don't know Josh. And so I had said to Josh, what are you going to do differently this time? And I really want to know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that question is just keep doing the next right thing, really.
What did you not do that last time? What did you not do last time?
It's
Tough
hard.
question.
It's hard to pinpoint specifically. I think it's more of a string of events and not reaching out as I should, or not. I mean, obviously, just making bad choice. You know, I pushed myself pretty hard, and so like there was some fatigue and some overwhelmed and lack of willingness to find better balance and practice more self-care.
I think that's the biggest thing that we work on.
Yeah,
That right there. So yeah.
I mean, like if I was trying to target something very specific, that would probably be at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Balance.
Yeah, and then doing the balance and the willingness. Yeah, but then taking. Like I know better, and like I have the tools and I have the support group and I have all the stuff. So like the taking the action to get into the solution before it becomes too big of a problem as well. I mentally will break myself in cycles. Like I'll like push and push and push, and then I'll be on the verge of having a mental breakdown, and then I'll come out of that. And this last one was, you know.
So I guess in that, like, so for me, like in that thing, I will push and push and push and push and push. And you get to that moment where you either, you know,
do the right thing or do the not thing.
Right. And so
Are you talking about the moment of choosing to get loaded?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. If we're talking about that specific moment, it's just one moment. But other than that, it's like, it's almost like a period. Like I'll get to that state where I'm like, I'm no matter where I look, it feels like I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. And that lasts for more than just a moment, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Josh's support group, you know, talks to him about it, like overextending yourself and not having balance and doing too much.
I've done a lot in regards to that in the last 6 to 8 months. Because of, I don't want to get off track what you're going to say, but it has to hurt for me to do something different sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so like, I'll get confused about how I've got this and fucking everything's okay. And then I'll cause some pain and then I'm willing to do something different. And so like, I'm much more cautious about my energy and how much I take on than I ever have been. Nice. But only because I fucking caused some pain, you know? Mm-hmm. So I, you know, it's just something I had to experience again.
Yeah. When I asked you, you know, to tell me what was wrong with Josh, I was actually kidding.
I know. I mean, the thing, like, I wasn't trying to. So Kevin loves Josh. I know this. And so there's this piece that's like, I want, you know, because you love him, I care about him. Right. And so I want you to stay clean too. Right. And so there is that piece of like, because I got loaded too when I knew better. And so sometimes for me, there's like this cool thing about helping people see like what is different, what you can make different, right? This
Yeah.
time, this next time. And so
Yeah.
for me, what I was going to say is that when I got clean again, because I knew where to go and I knew I was an addict and I was 21, I got clean and I did all the things again. I had a sponsor and I did service and I whatever. And it says in the Narcotics Anonymous basic text, like there are 3 things that are indispensable: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And my experience, like, that is true. That is, I don't know, fucking gospel or whatever. Paramount. Like, there are a couple lines in the NA text that are life-shattering to me.
Yeah.
And that to me is one, because when I got clean the second time, I did all the things. I even did steps, but I did the steps and I wrote, so it sounded good. Except the truth is that I wasn't like willing to really feel my feelings and get it all out.
So
right?
honesty then.
It wasn't the honest. I was honest, but I wrote until it started to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to do all the things.
I gotcha.
I wasn't willing to feel. I wasn't willing to dig it out. I wasn't willing to, like, and I could blame it on that I was doing too much and I dated some guy and he got loaded and he'd been clean and blah, 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 blah. But the truth is for me, I know I wasn't willing to do the work. And like the people that I know who have like, stuff, often they're like, I know all the things to do, right? They know, like the people who have crazy relationships, they know that they need to walk away, or the people who, are getting loaded over and over and over again. They know they need to go to steps and do all the things and whatever. And they're like, when it really all often boils down to it, they aren't being honest or willing to do it, willing to do the hard shit, willing to pick up the phone.
We say that a lot around here. You got to do the hard work.
Yeah. And they said when I came in the third time, well, that's a whole other story, but
how many times?
That's it.
The third time was it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's get there. Like,
okay.
What?
So this time, because they said the second time, do it as though your life depends on it. Right? And I didn't do it as though my life depended on it.
Got it.
And when I came in the third time, my life depended on it. I was going to try, because I knew better.
Yeah, what was going on at the time that pushed you to get clean the third time and the final time? There's got to be something dramatic happening for you to change.
Yeah. After all the states that I'd lived in, I was back in New Jersey with crazy people. Well, no, then I moved out. That's a whole other story. But I was like, I'm miserable again. My family fights with depression, I think, a lot. I don't think they do. I was miserable again. I was not where I wanted to be. I wanted something better. And so I was going to come back to California again. I'd lived here before. And I was like, if I'm going to go to California and I'm going to get clean again, because I guess one of the final things is I was like living in New Jersey. I had gone behind, I was drunk at some bar because some boy left me, and I like went behind this dumpster and I had to pee and I fell down and I like cut my ass with a big shard of glass, and I like so embarrassing, right? So
you had glass in your ass?
I had glass in my ass,
nice.
Literally. And so
remember that girl that had glass in her ass?
Yeah.
On that podcast that one time?
Totally. So I like stood up and my hand, and I looked and my hand was covered in blood.
You got that?
I caught it, yeah.
Wait, glass in her ass, that podcast and what? I missed the last piece.
No, he's trying to rap.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just trying to give him ideas.
Okay.
Do you know he raps?
I did not.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this.
He's really good.
Okay. Actually, I do, because I listened to part of Tim's thing and I heard you guys talking about it now that I think about it.
Okay.
Anyway, I stood up and I had blood all over my hand and I had a very clear... Wait, what?
Ass blood.
Ass blood. I did. Yeah. And I had a very clear realization that I did not want my grandmother to read in the paper that this is how I died.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like, she was kind of the only person. She wasn't very good to my dad, but she was good to me. And I didn't want that to be what she read. Like there was this absolute moment of, this is what you're doing.
Yep.
Like she's going to know this and she's the only thing.
Yeah.
And I need to not do this anymore. And I knew where to go and I knew what to do. And so I said, literally consciously, I'm going to try for one more year. I'm going to give it 1 year. And if I don't feel better than this, I'm going to drive my car 90 miles an hour into a brick wall.
All right. So I want to come back to your grandma, but keep going.
And so I was leaving very shortly, which is why I wanted to see the boy, is because I was leaving to go to California. And he didn't come back. And I was all mad and, blah, blah. And so I went and visited my friend, Robin, in Colorado, who was like, one of my party peeps. And I saw him and I used for the last time, and I threw my drugs out the window in the car and I drove across the country and I said the Serenity Prayer and I gripped onto the handle and I drove and I drove and I drove and I got to here before my niece and nephews, like it was Halloween. And I was like, I'm going to get there. So I literally drove for like many hours, so that I could see them in their little Halloween outfits. And that was on a Wednesday. And on Thursday, I went to a meeting and I raised my hand and I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I actually want to do it.
So like your first clean day was
Halloween.
In Colorado? Or on the way
I got loaded in Colorado and then I woke up in the morning and I left and I drove to California. So my first full day clean was Halloween.
And that was it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Done. So let me ask you about your types of relationships, like before getting clean and then in being clean. Have they changed, or or is that?
Yes and no. Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to do the work, and therefore I developed relationships with people who knew how to be there, and friendships and sponsor relationships and be a member of my community. Like I have so many different types of relationships.
Oh yeah, we all do.
Yes. And then I also have some relationships that are very similar to my family of origin, and I am walking through that.
Yeah. Looking back, I mean, does that coincide with your picker being close to what you saw as a child, what relationships were like as a child?
Absolutely. I mean,
I'm just saying that because I did when I first got clean. And that's who I was used to chaos growing up. And so the girls and then the women that I was attracted to were chaotic until I learned after a couple of rounds of steps what I wanted and what I didn't want. And I didn't want chaos anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Also, dating the wrong people, too. You find out what you do and you don't want.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
That with a combination of step work and all that stuff, too. But, I mean, that's what it looked like for me anyway. I had to have a bunch of fucked up relationships to, well, I guess not a bunch, but quite a few fucked up relationships to know, like, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. I like that. That's okay. That's not okay. Like, or like boundaries that I have to set. And
I think we did a list, right? On one side,
fucking done a bunch of lists. Yeah.
Yeah. One side of the paper, you put down what you don't want in that relationship, and then the other side of the paper would be the opposite.
That list has changed.
Yeah.
It changes all the time.
I just wanted to be safe. I found somebody that I'm safe with.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
So back to you. Part that we were talking about is the relationships, and I asked you if you had reoccurring themes from childhood that you looked at.
Yeah.
And so what I want to ask you really is, did fear of some kind affect the way you interact in relationships?
Did it did it or does it? Is that the
Both.
question? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so
what fear?
I developed good relationships. I think I learned how to develop good relationships here. Intimate relationships have been challenging for me because I have both fear of abandonment. Like when you're abandoned as a child, you
There we go.
don't want to be abandoned again, right? And
Yeah.
so like, you know, when you have an intimate partner, you want a, you know, girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife or a, you know, other, you know, whatever your
Gotcha.
vision of partner is, you have visions of what that is and what it's going to give to you. And the work that I have done has shown me that oftentimes there's so many expectations that we have, or things that we thought it would give us.
Expectations.
And dreams that we had, and things that we want that are different than we had too. Like I know, you know, I didn't, because my parents had such a horrible, horrible marriage and divorce, I really didn't want to get married until I, you know, like had a good, healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
But I didn't really necessarily know what that is or how to get there. And so in my recovery, when I saw that it wasn't good, I did the work so that I could walk away, because that's hard a lot of times. But because I've done all this work, I can sometimes see.
Yeah.
But I've also learned, like, I have been recently going to ACA, and I've learned that there's this whole thing that we do when we are kids from chaotic and traumatic upbringings, that we often recreate those things in our lives. And, you know, and so I thought for a long time, you know, that I sought out crazy, right? Because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. And so every relationship got better and better. Like I could see more and more of the characteristics. So I wanted somebody safe, and I wanted somebody...
Safe is a key word.
You know, available. And I wanted somebody who, you know, and I had a lot of jealousy in the beginning of my recovery. And in doing a 6 and 7, my sponsor had me do it where you write down the character defect and then you write down like what you can replace it with.
The spiritual principle.
The spiritual principle, right? And so I could not figure out what the opposite of jealousy was. Like literally, like I had this whole list and whatever, and I like sat on it, and I remember I was like driving to school, and I called her and I was like, dude, I do not understand what the hell you're talking about. And I don't remember how we got there. It was a really long time ago. But what I walked into school with was like understanding that, because for me, the jealousy was like, I'm jealous that he's going to see her and she's going to be more beautiful and he's going to leave. And so I'm jealous. And she said something to the effect of, if he really loved her and he wanted to be with her, if you really loved him, wouldn't you want him to go and be happy? And that's unconditional love. That's the opposite of don't leave me. And so I've really been trying the rest of my life since then to not worry about if he's going to leave, because if he wants to leave, I'd rather have him be happy.
I struggle with the same stuff, and the unconditional
love.
Yeah. I didn't like, I'm a wordy person, like vocabulary is pretty good. And like unconditional love, like, okay, I understand that. But I didn't really understand it until humility and unconditional love hit at the same time for me, really, really, really hard. And it completely changed all my relationships. And that the same process you're talking about, like I struggle with some of the same stuff. I can relate to the abandonment issues as well. And from childhood as well. And like, that's one of the things that I was talking about where I respond, not react. Like that's one of my big things that I struggle with still today is like, okay, this is a Josh thing. Like this is not real. This is a Josh thing. And right now I'm scared and I'm hurt and I want to cause harm. And
because of some fear. Because
of fear. Exactly. And so I'm not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. That's made a huge difference. Like I can relate to that a lot. Like, and it's so the idea of being able to look past that fear to like the reality of like what unconditional love entails. Like, if you really care about that person, wouldn't you want them to be happy? Like, your happiness and their happiness are two completely different things. They get to and deserve to have their own. And if you care about that person, they get to go have that, and you're going to find your own, whatever that looks like. Right. Like, being able to see that past the fear of, I'm going to get hurt. Yeah, I'm going to get hurt is like, and that's applicable in so many different areas of life, and it's so useful.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the hard part is, right, is that you have to be willing to sit in the, like we say, oh, we'll find our own happiness, right? But like, that's hard when you're in pain, and you're often in pain. And like recently I've been doing this cool work, there's this like internet person, Teal Swan, and she talks about how when you have that trigger and you're like afraid, if you go inside, that I never knew that I could actually work on the being happy if they left. I could actually like work on the abandonment from when I was a kid. I didn't know I could say, okay, they left, you're in pain. I mean, I spent years clean. I had 20 something years clean before I really was like, I don't like this feeling. And there's nothing to do other than feel it, right? Like Jen, my sponsor, talks about that all the time. You actually just have to feel it. And oftentimes I heard this, somebody was talking to the other day, a lot of times we don't like let people cry because we don't even know, like if you actually let a kid cry, like it'll stop eventually. We think if we cry, people often think if they cry, it's like going to destroy it. We're going to die.
Something's wrong.
Right. Versus like that you just need to cry until you stop crying, And so, and in recovery, I was like, okay, if there's a problem, you fix it. You do a solution, you do steps, you do something, there's a solution to this problem. And like, not all feelings are problems. So I actually had to like then learn to differentiate between like, is this a problem? I'm triggered not about this or whatever. Or is it like, I actually need to, so that, when I told you like my grandpa, I wasn't allowed to cry when I was 6. And so I am now like spending some time actually allowing myself to grieve because he was fantastic, and we never talked about him again, really. Like, and so can you let yourself grieve now? Is it okay to just sit and cry and feel, I went to the woods the other day and I let myself just feel, and I didn't die and it did pass. And then, it allows me to, I think, be more present, not running.
Yeah. So,
so that didn't answer your question, though.
Well, are you going to answer the question?
Yes. So you said, does it change? Does your history or the fear, like, change your relationship, or did recovery? I think, like, has recovery given me better relationships or whatever? And what's the question again?
Did the fear of some kind affect the way you interact in relationships?
Yeah. So I think that the fear of abandonment has caused me to often hold on to things for a while. But what I've also been doing recently is I realized that, so I'm married and my husband is very similar to my dad in that he's not interested in real emotional development. And I have been chasing my dad. Like,
he doesn't talk about his feelings?
No. Well, but he also doesn't even want to look at how he could potentially be triggered, or he doesn't want to, there is, I think
some people are just like that.
Yeah. So there's really
one thing. Yeah.
So I spent a lot of years in the basement trying to get my dad to pay attention to me and saying to him, don't you understand this hurts that you're not paying attention to me? And he didn't have the capacity. right? But I kept like trying to show him. And there have been relationships in my life where they also don't have the capacity to be able to like give me what I need relationally. I think first we have to learn what we have to give ourselves, right? But then you also have the right in a relationship to get some of your relational needs met. And my dad could not meet my relational needs. Neither could my mom, but that's a whole nother story. But I kept trying to convince him or show him or be good or something. Like there was all this thing that maybe someday he would pay attention. And he was an addict and it's not personal. Like, you know, all those people that we hurt. But from the kid, I'm like, maybe if I do this, he will want to have a relationship with me. And I have recently realized that I've also been chasing my husband saying, hey, don't you want to have a relationship with me? And they have both said to me a number of times, like, I'm not interested in that. And I have been chasing them. And so I'm like doing this work and I'm, you know, and so like I got to a point where I realized that to take care of me, the little girl who is like sitting on the stairs in the basement, like they can't, and it's time to get out of the basement. And so I have been walking away. And I started to go to ACA because I realized like that there's some things that has done.
Can we just for people that don't know, ACA and what is that?
So it's adult
and what is the target that they
so
on?
ACA is a 12-step program that is for adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. So it's not only for alcoholics anymore, which is because they've realized that childhood trauma causes people to not know how to function healthily as an adult. Healthy is probably not a word, but. And so because when you know, it's called adult children really, because like if you don't really know how to be an adult, really like an adult, you know, you're still kind of a child. Because what happens when you come from trauma, normally with scary things, you flee or you fight or flight, right? You either fight the thing, right, or run away. But if you can't do that because you're in a home and they're big and whatever, like you just lie on the ground and play dead. That's what animals do. And so when kids do that, they basically, I froze for years. I just freeze. Let's really
That's
fight
actually
or
the
flight
third
or
one.
freeze, right?
Yeah.
That you then pick relationships often not only because of the chaos, right? Like I always thought for years I've been thinking like, okay, I keep picking chaotic relationships because I like them because it makes me feel alive. But there's also sort of a philosophy that you also pick them so that maybe this time you can have a different outcome. That as an adult, we pick people who
are super deep,
right?
You're going deep.
It's so sick. It's such a sick process. We only know what we know. Like, and that's the thing. I think that people that come from similar backgrounds to, you know, just us, for example, like we don't all we see is what we've seen. And so if we don't have any information that tells us otherwise, that we can replace, that we feel safe enough to replace the data that we've collected, like we're just going to keep doing what we're doing because that's all we know, you know. Mm-hmm. I had a friend recently, he's going through some relational stuff, and he was talking about, well, if I could just get her to do this, or if I could just get her to do that. I'm like, so you want to change her? And he was like, well, and I'm like, you know, that's fucking insanity, right? And he's like, oh, I just need to set some boundaries, and you know, I got some expectations. And I was like, oh fuck, oh, that sounds rough.
Yeah. So
to answer the question,
yes, please,
because once I see it, right, like you know, all of these life events happen, and I realize that I am running after somebody who does not want to change, does not want to be there, that I can't make them change, right? And so I have to change. And if it's not working for me, I have to take care of myself. And so
stay in your own hula hoop.
Stay in my own hula hoop. But I'm allowed to ask for what I need. And if somebody is not able to give it to you, that's totally fair. And then I have to do the work to be like, I actually want my relational needs to be met enough to say that this isn't working for me.
That.
So yeah, so I guess I'm gonna get maybe not married anymore, and that's not.
Did you just say that out loud?
Mm-hmm.
Have you said it out loud before this?
On Tuesday, I said to my husband that this is not working, and I'm really not happy that my podcast is like 3 days later because
It's fresh.
It's really fresh, and I really want the world to not. No. I love him, and I loved my dad, and there are a lot of people I love that are lovely, beautiful, amazing humans. And I wish that it was different, and it's not. And
so I'm sorry, the acceptance piece in that there just happened. Like you realized that it's not working. So would you say like that's the expiration date?
Was Tuesday when I said I need to not be married anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that topic, you're somebody that's pretty in tune with their feelings, right? So did you have that realization with your dad? Like it wasn't working? Did you ever, in your childhood, did you ever have that? You still thought all the way through that?
I didn't literally get out of the basement until about 3 months ago. Like
Wow,
my dad's
heavy.
been dead for 5 years.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I still want him to want to have a relationship with me. I want my mom to want to have a relationship with me. They don't.
I have a question before we get too far off of this topic. And I'm not trying to, I don't want it to seem like I'm discrediting the work or the process that you've had to get to where you're at right now. Just out of curiosity, how much time have you put into looking at the possibility that the things that you feel like you want out of the relationship aren't caused, like those aren't things that you can, like there's stuff you can do with yourself that would create less of a need for those specific things, and then you could still figure out how the relationship would work? Or are you already at a spot where you've already done all that searching?
I mean,
did that question make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think that what you're saying is like, have I given him a chance to be able to meet my relational needs, or have I worked at meeting my relational needs so that I don't have any needs in the relationship?
That one. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the question. The second one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not his job to make me happy. It's not his job to, I mean, I need to learn to like walk away when a relationship is making me uncomfortable. I think that there's work that I'm doing on like, I learned, so in step work, one of the things that would happen is that we would get into arguments, right? And I'm much better at keeping calm, but I would still be all anxious, right? And so I would also be triggered. When he got triggered about a thing, it triggered me. And I would then you're going to leave me. I'm going to be abandoned. And so then I'm in it, right? And I'm trying to convince you to either like do something or whatever. And so I've been practicing when we started to get into it to like walk away, because I'm taking care of myself. Like I have to.
Yeah, I think. The big point that I'm getting from you right now is that you're not willing to settle.
Right.
And that's great. Yeah.
But yes, but I've also been, has it been enough time?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that we've gone to therapy for years, couple years. It's been 4 years that I'm like, hey, I would like to have to not be interrupted, or to have you be interested in what matters to me emotionally. And he has said, I don't want to do that enough a lot of times. Like he's not interested. And so when I said I'm not happy, he said, I know you're not satisfied. And I said, are you okay really with the decision? You'd rather have this be over than to do the work. And he's not interested in doing the work. So he said, okay. I mean, I said, this is not working. And he said, okay.
So the reason I ask is just my personal experience is over time, by trial and error, I've been in relationships where I'm convinced that the problem is the behavior of the other person. And I'm sure that like, I'm just not okay with that. And then I find out later that it was because of some shit inside of me that was causing me to not be able to deal with something that is totally okay and healthy.
Yeah.
Like, and that was the question.
Yeah. So if I had been on the podcast 3 months ago, that's where I was, right? It was his behavior and his whatever. And, you know, and like not, I mean, he's a good person in a million ways, but it was that, and it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
It's that I actually
need something different.
I don't have the fear anymore. Like, so so to answer your question,
yeah,
I'm not afraid.
Answer
anymore.
the question, then we're going to move on.
Okay, sorry. I have done enough work that I'm not afraid of being alone. I have done enough work that I'm not afraid of being abandoned. I've done enough work, and I have been paying attention to my little girls inside enough that they can leave, and it's going to be okay because I'm going to be here.
Yeah, that's
and
tight.
I want to be with people who have the emotional maturity to be with me because I have relationships in both, but I think my intimate relationships have been based on fear. Once I get in, I don't want you to leave.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to be in a place where my relationships are based on I'm loving myself, God's loving me, and if there's more to spill over, then we can potentially be there and share with each other. And maybe meet our enough of our emotional needs to want to continue to be in good relationship. But like, it's my job to fill myself up 100%.
Yeah. So it was I get that. I get that. Along with the fear of abandonment, when you first got clean, did you have like a major fear? Like a lot of people say fear of failure or something like that.
No, I didn't have any fears really. Like I literally didn't experience fear like until when I was 21, I went skiing and I broke my ACL. And then, you know, whatever. And then a few years later, I went on rollerblades and they didn't have roller skates had a stop on the front.
Okay.
School, right? Rollerblades don't have a stop on the front. And so I went on rollerblades and I was like, I couldn't stop. And it was that same feeling of when I was on the ski slope and I couldn't stop. And then I broke my ACL and I like felt fear. And I was like, holy shit, like that's what fear feels like, right? I do not have a lot of fear other than the fear of abandonment.
Heavy.
I still trip out like on the wrong day at the wrong time with the wrong set of circumstances. If that's happened, if those conditions are met, and then like I'm unable to get a hold of anybody in my immediate support group, I'm like, I start tripping. I'm like, everyone's leaving me. I'm not good enough. Nobody wants to talk to me. I
have that. I'm not good enough.
That can happen today. Yeah. That could happen today.
Yeah. And then the obsession, right? I'm thinking.
Yep.
I have a lot of that.
I start building a case against everybody. I start getting mad at people that aren't around to cause a problem with me.
We really try to encourage, I'll rephrase that. I really try to encourage guys that I work with to have a solid support group. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know, 5 or 6 people.
I feel like for healthy recovery, it's fucking mandatory.
That's what I'm saying.
That's my opinion.
Healthy life. I just listened to a podcast by Trevor Noah and
love him.
Some SS person. I can't remember what his name is. But they were talking about friendship and how friendship is really like this super important thing that we put by the wayside often. And this is not people in recovery. This is like human beings, like for our business and our family, like how friendship is literally like one of the things that is super important to develop for your health.
Yeah.
Like how like we focus on physical health and going to the gym and our business and our families, but like there's like this missing piece of friendship, and it was so beautiful. My friend sent it to me and I love her. And
I think we find a lot of purpose in relationships.
Right.
And without like purpose is like my biggest fear is not fulfilling my purpose. And so I get a little hit of being purposeful with the relationships that I have.
Cool. So moving on, we're going to talk about reservations.
Okay.
So when you first got clean, or anywhere around that period of time, what was that reservation? Like a lot of people go, well, if so-and-so died or this happened or that happened. Did you have any reservations?
Not really. I mean, I really felt like if my life doesn't feel better at the end of the year, I'm going to drive my car into a wall. I feel like...
So that's a reservation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a drastic one, though.
Well, yeah.
Which I can relate to.
It was 100%. I'd done this twice before. I knew what I hadn't done. I was like, I'm going to do all the things. I will do it as though my life depends on it. And if it doesn't work, because this is horrible. And I will say I've had horrible in my recovery.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But I never, like after that year, way before that year was over, like I learned after doing steps and doing what Narcotics Anonymous taught me, how to be happy sometimes, how to be grateful. And so then I didn't ever really want to kill myself again too much. There was one time in my recovery where I thought about it again regularly, and I got back on depression medication because I had been on it once before. I think I suffer from depression, right? And I think that recovery in the beginning and doing all the things helped me get out of it. Like I exercised and I ate well and I went to meetings and I did step work and I went to therapy and I did all the things. And life was pretty good, you know, and you've worked through things. When I went to nursing school by myself, single mom with a 3-year-old, and I didn't sleep at all. Like I slept 4 hours a night for months on end and I was depressed and I wasn't doing all the things. I went on depression medication. Then I came back. Then I started doing all the things again. I got off of it. And then I had relationship drama and I had a fundamentally broken thing in my brain. And so I went back to therapy and she said, you might want to get back on depression medication. And because sometimes you don't have the chemicals in your brain, like you just don't make them. Your brain doesn't make them. And so I got back on depression medication, but the fundamental thing that was broken, I had to do therapy for. And so I stayed on the depression medication because I think that chemically I'm just better. I just feel like better. But I also did the work. So then I fixed those fundamental broken thoughts.
So you're not on meds?
I am on meds.
So that's like a big issue for a lot of people in the rooms is medication.
That's why I was saying it's awesome you're able to get the outside help so early in recovery too.
Yeah.
Like those two things come up a lot for a lot of people, you know? I mean, you've been around, you know.
I think everybody in the absolute universe should go to therapy.
I agree.
100%.
Even if you're having little fucking offshoot non-professional therapy sessions with the support group.
Totally.
Like you should be talking about your feelings and the shit that's going on with you.
Absolutely.
And processing.
And sometimes you need therapy more than others. Like, yes, sometimes you go to therapy once a year or whatever, or like, you know, do it for a year and take off 4 years and then go back when shit comes up.
That's what my trauma therapist said. You can come back for a tune-up.
Yeah. I mean, I go to the chiropractor like that too. Like I don't go once a week for the next 3 months. Like when my back hurts, I go to the chiropractor. Sometimes I have to go 2 or 3 times. Then I feel good. And then I do all the things so that my back doesn't go out.
Nice. So no other reservations.
Not really.
So that's an easy one. So what about resentment? So what
about resentment?
Yeah. There's a list. What resentment did you carry for a very long time that you've overcome today?
That's a good question.
For example, like I resented, you know, my parents. Mm-hmm. And I no longer feel that, right? Mm-hmm. I was just in a situation that happened, and that's the facts. And I don't have any control over that. And they didn't, like we've talked about, they didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. They had horrible teachers themselves.
Mm-hmm. So many. I mean, like, yes, my parents and, you know, him number 1, 2, or 17, or, you know, like,
wait, him number 2?
You know, like...
No, I don't know.
Not necessarily, but you have a relationship and then they do a thing and you're mad at the thing and then I did step work. I've done step work lots of times. And so when you have a resentment, you write it down. And then, like, what's your part? And how did it affect you? And what do you need to do differently?
And so you get to check those off after you do the step around that resentment.
Yeah. And then sometimes you still have it. And sometimes you have to do more work on it. And sometimes you have to, like, there's the understanding where they came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that got rid of
a little bit of compassion for them.
Right. Like I mean.
What's a big one that you came in with that you've been able to get over?
I mean, I would say my parents, I feel like I did a lot of work before I got clean on trying to forgive her ass. Like, I started when I was 16.
Just when you say forgive her ass,
it
still sounds a little bit resentful.
Yeah.
Doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, I think that she's still alive and still painful, right? And so a lot of times I think in recovery, I see a lot of people who I want the best for my mom,
Absolutely.
And I understand that she's broken because of her childhood. And a lot of times I allow my mom to have a relationship with me and my daughter because I am grateful for the things that she gave me, and it's a gift.
Yeah.
But she's not fun for me to hang out with and is not emotionally healthy for me. And so it's still challenging.
Challenging is different.
Right.
Though.
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, like specifically about parents. I've gotten past the resentments that I had as a child from my childhood, but I still have plenty of things today, current, where I can be resentful about. They're still the same. They're still the same people.
Mm-hmm.
They're still the same people that, maybe even progressed in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I'm better or worse than who they are or anything like that, but just I still experience those triggers and that relive that stuff over and over again when I interact with them. And so it's easy to be like, I can get resentful at the fact that, like, why is that still unhealthy?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that still happening?
Yeah, I think the crux of the solution is boundaries, right?
Sure.
So, like, I recently this year had an interaction with my dad, and we've always had, a rough relationship, and he raised his voice and started yelling at me about something that I wasn't even involved in, and I go, huh, and I walked out. I didn't interact, and I walked out, and I, told Jen, okay, we're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And we just left. And I didn't leave there with, like, hate or resentment or anything. I was like, oh,
It's time for me to go now.
Yeah.
Totally.
And he didn't have the capacity to communicate, without being toxic.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that the boundary for me is what is a solution.
Yeah.
In those situations.
Totally. I totally agree. And I think that for some things there are boundaries, for some things there are compassion, for some things there are, forgiveness.
Could be both.
Like all of them. And
could
like
be all of them.
Yeah,
when you say a person, right? Like a person is like I had the person and then I had the things that I was resentful for.
Right.
And so have I forgiven most of those things? Yes. Do I have new things, which is what you're talking about, that come up? Yes. Like, I have a daughter. I love her more than life. Every once in a while, she does a thing and I'm like resentful for a while. And then I'm allowed to then process it. Do I have a part? Do I want to say anything? Is there something that we need to work on? Can I let this go? You know what I mean? Like, with all the people that I love, you are allowed to have a resentment. And then and for me, I want to be the person who can, like, completely let it go and forgive them and move on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that any time with any people can you not have some resentment sometimes,
Any big ones stand out still today? Besides your relationship that you're in? Outside of that?
No, because I I, keep doing the steps really like
that, and you love crazy hippie. You love everyone.
I kind of try to.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be.
No, she really is.
I watched this interview once of these people, and their daughter had been murdered, and they were like interviewing them, and they wanted them to come and like be there for like the execution of the murderer or whatever, and they were like, "No, we don't want this. We're not interested." Like, and I really did believe, and I really did believe they were like, it's not our job to be judgy. And, that soul has that life. And to be the spirituality that I want to be is I want to be able to love them anyway. Like, not necessarily want them around, but I want to be the person who has the compassion to say, yeah, you shouldn't have murdered my husband, my child, my whatever. But like, I understand that it's not my job.
Yeah, that's a painful thing to go through. What consequences from your past are you living with today, or do you have any? Sometimes like people have like physical consequences.
Yeah, I mean,
Hep C, herpes, missing limbs.
That's just you.
No, it's so not just him at all.
I'm kidding. I'm teasing Josh right now.
I know. So no, I mean myself. Like, who is it that I, I'm unhappy with myself, and that I've often chosen to not take care of myself. So therefore I'm, I'm overweight, and I'm not as limber as I would like to be. And I often,
is that from your using? Like, I guess we could, I mean, if we're talking about current manifestations, I think the question's more like,
did you commit a crime and go to prison, and now you have a felony?
What kind of consequences do you carry into your current life from your using days?
I mean,
if any.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was not a big hard criminal, and so I've never been arrested. I'm not a good drug-a-log story person. I mean, I've definitely like scraped drugs off the carpet and smoked hair probably, but.
The usual.
Yeah. So
you got away pretty clean.
Did. And in some ways it was a blessing that my mom caught me stealing her drugs and put me in, because I didn't smoke pot for years. Like my whole teenage thing. I mean, I did way too many hallucinogenics, but I did retain some of my brain, I think. And, because I got clean again, or because, so I don't feel like I had a shit ton of consequences in the world.
Yeah.
However, I certainly hurt people that I loved, But
are you still dealing with that today? Those people
so
that you hurt?
Or maybe some shame and some guilt. Maybe you brought some shame and some guilt with you.
And we're going to get to shame and guilt.
Yeah. He's got postcards.
So there's nothing that got carried over. No consequences.
Getting away clean is.
She sounds like she's got away clean.
Yeah,
pretty much. I did, like, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
No, Kevin, I did not.
I mean, I had an abortion that I'm not happy about, and
are you living with that today?
No, because I do a lot of work trying to be forgiving of self and others.
Okay. So technically,
like got away clean. Yeah.
I'm throwing that one away.
Yeah.
And we're just saying that. Oh, you have one?
No. What's crazy is I'm like, well, about shame and guilt.
Supposed to have some.
Like, I should have some. Like, I'm not a good qualified candidate for your addict podcast because I don't really have any, like, And then I'm going to tell that voice to shut the fuck up.
Thank you, because I was about to tell that voice. Same thing. Yeah, like I said, this is just to appeal to a variety and a diversity of people, so somebody can relate to you.
Yeah.
There are people that are in the program.
Clean getaway.
That didn't have consequences.
I mean, I went to like way too many colleges because I can stay, and it took me way too long, and I don't have a good career because I didn't.
You've got a great career.
You don't have to keep trying. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
All right, on to shame and guilt. Did you have shame and guilt growing up that led you to using drugs?
Absolutely. Sorry to swear. I should stop swearing.
No, you can swear.
Shame and guilt is a my mother's Jewish. Do we all have lots of guilt?
The
there?
guilt, yeah.
The guilt. I did it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I'm hurting all the people.
Yeah.
And she's narcissistic. So I was raised that I was supposed to take care of her, and I was wrong because I didn't do it well. And she almost died when she had me. She was in the. I was like, I started the gate that I had fucked up her life and.
Yeah, I just want to point out that that shame thing and guilt, it's not like Jewish specific.
Okay.
Because I hear a lot of people talk about it. It is like a kind of a trait, I guess. I don't really know, but we have to understand that that's way bigger than just.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's just that particular. Sect. I think that there's tons of different cultures, religions, beliefs, upbringings,
people,
ethnicities. Guilt is
universal.
Our entire world, in some ways, is based on not the theory of abundance, but the theory of like lack and not enough, and that manifests itself in a million different ways.
The has and the have-nots.
Yes,
the haves. So, did you correlate that shame and guilt to the first time you got loaded? That changed the way you feel? Not then, but looking back, it was like,
I think I would say that it took away the shame and guilt.
Okay.
Because I didn't have to feel guilty for being alive.
Right.
I didn't have to feel anything. It was fantastic.
Yeah, not being good enough for me.
Oh my God.
That's what it was for me.
Huge.
I felt like I'm just not good. I'm not good enough. And then I got loaded and it was like, well, I don't really know what I was tripping on, but everything's okay right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And in recovery, so what I said earlier, like my big fundamental flaws is that I learned here in NA that I was lovable. Like for some reason, there was a higher power that saw fit for me to be alive and let me hear birds. And like, God loved me, right? I got that. You guys taught me that. And you all loved me, but I wasn't really lovable because if your own parents don't love you, I didn't fundamentally believe it. And after, medication and lots of therapy, I realized like my parents were incapable of it. And so it was a irrational thought that I could base my own worthiness on people who weren't even capable. Like, if you're asking a 3-year-old to cook a meal for you and then you're saying, well, like they're not capable of doing that. And so it'd be irrational to think that they were. And so my worthiness, which was for 30 something years, I didn't feel worthy and valuable because they said you are only going to be worthy and valuable if you do these things. It wasn't inherent worth. There was no inherent worth in my upbringing.
I can relate to that. Probably 10 years ago or a little bit more, I was like working with my dad, and so I don't know what we're having an argument about, but I said, I'm just trying to live up to your expectations. And he says, you'll never live up to my expectations. And I was crushed, dude. I was fucking crushed.
Like, no.
And then like a month later, I mentioned that in a conversation, and he goes, I never said that. I was fucking there.
Yeah.
You said it to me, and
that's called gaslighting.
Yeah.
Something came up with my dad not the other day, not that long ago, and we were talking about like some stuff that happened as a kid, like some physical.
You guys were hashing that out?
Yeah, talking about it at least, and he's like, "That never happened," and I was like, "Oh my God!" And then I processed it for a second, and I had all kinds of feelings all hit at the same time, and I got confused, and I was like, this conversation is not like it's not going to accomplish anything. Like the denial so deep that it just erases a complete memory. Like I understand that feeling. I've done that. And like through work, I've uncovered things that I didn't even know were there.
Exactly.
And so I was like, there's way too much to unpack in order to have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
And something funny you said, you'll never reach my expectations. I was doing that to myself recently.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I'll never reach my own expectations. Like I'm chasing this thing that I will never, ever get to. no matter how much I accomplish, I'll never get there.
Yeah. Super, super toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point I was relating to was
Acceptance.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I accept you exactly as you are.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get you to be something
Well,
different.
that there, and then that rolls into humility, like
Compassion
and contentment. Like, I'm okay where I'm at. I'm okay where I'm at. I don't need to strive to achieve these things if I'm happy.
It's okay to strive to achieve, but not to fill the void.
Yeah, it's not an obsessive compulsive
Correct.
thing.
It's different. The motive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have just started, like, the whole gratitude thing for me. I've just started to get specific in my life. Because I live in gratitude, but it's just kind of like a blanket feeling. Like, I'm very grateful for where I'm at, what I have, love my wife. She's my forever, all that stuff. But just recently I started pinpointing things that weren't super visible for me. And the biggest thing is that wall around my heart is gone. Right. And so we feel, and I hate feeling. I hate crying. I hate getting in touch with that stuff because it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he hates it. I think he says hate because it's some sort
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the gratitude is that wall is gone, and I've experienced, like, my relationship with my kids is so much deeper now because I get to feel. And how is that gratitude for you? And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Do you have specific ones?
Things I'm grateful for?
Yeah.
No. I have an
you got
entire
the blanket?
fucking litany of... So when I was 16...
Can you define litany for me?
Shit ton. To do lists of
Okay.
of, like, so many.
Thank you.
So many. When I was 16, I read this book called How to Heal Your Life by Louise Hayes. And she had, like...
Say that again?
How to Heal Your Life by this woman, Louise Hayes. And she had, like, developed cancer. She had resentments, and she came up with a philosophy that was like, if you can, like, forgive people for the things that they do to you, then you can heal yourself. And she didn't have cancer anymore. And it totally made sense. And she was like, those people who've done the things to you, imagine them up on a stage and imagine the things that they would want happen for them to happen to them. Like, imagine good for them.
Yeah.
It will allow you to help forgive. So when you talk about forgiving my mom, like, I have been trying and doing and letting go of, different things over the years. And she also said, if you write down 5 things you're grateful for every night before you go to bed for 2 weeks, you will feel better. And so I have been writing 5, and sometimes they're bigger, right? You're like, I have a house and it's cute, and I got to buy new flowers today, or, it becomes more and more. And so I think I have been paying attention to the things that I can be grateful for since I was 16.
Wow. In
lists of lists. And so oftentimes when I'm driving, if I, make a light or I see the sun, and like today, when I was coming over the Dunbarton Bridge, and the way that the little, like, hills are, and they're, like, different colors of hills. And for, like, 2.5 seconds, like, it's just so pretty. Like, if for me, I have a sticker and it said, give thanks and praise. And that was a hippie sticker I got on Dead Tour, but I had it on my folder for a long time. And I really I think that if you can come from a place of gratitude, and that can be all day, all the time, it's everywhere. I have friends. The block around my heart is gone. The ability to be crying is not uncomfortable anymore.
Not for you. It's for as long as I've known you.
Are you saying that all of this, the litany of things that you have gratitude for, like, on your list, are you just like, are you looking at them and be like, I can be grateful for that? Or are you actually experiencing the feeling of gratitude with each thing? Because there's a big difference.
Yeah.
I have so many things to be grateful for that it comes out of my eyeballs all the time and it makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah, we're watching it happen right now. It's pretty amazing.
I don't deserve the things. Like, I don't. I mean, I know 100,000%, even though life is hard and shit is uncomfortable and I fuck up all the time, I've had, like, it feels good. I'm grateful. Like, I believe if you say thank you over and over again, even if you don't feel it, that eventually you start to feel it. And so then even when it's hard, you know, it's no.
That repetition is super important. That's one thing that Steve Magetti taught me. I was having trouble.
You retrain your brain, man.
Yeah, no, I was having trouble with my ex-wife back, when we were divorced, but Jen and I had just got together, and he's like, I want you to pray for her, for good things to happen for her for 30 days. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Why the hell would I pray for good things to happen to, and at the time we were both fucked up. It was just a bad scene. Anyways, around day 28, I had to say that all the time, around day 28, I wasn't feeling it. And at day 28, I was like, oh shit, the light bulb went on. Mm-hmm. If good things happen to her, she'll be happier and she might treat people better. She might have some peace in her life. She might not live in that chaos, whatever's going on with her.
That's that unconditional love she was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I the feeling of gratitude, like I experience the concept of gratitude as a thought very heavily when I feel gratitude. I don't take enough time to like make a list of the things like I could be grateful for this, I could be grateful for that, I'm grateful for that. Like I will be in certain situations like coming over the Dumbarton Bridge and like I don't like the Bay Area at all. On that bridge, almost every single time I drive over it, especially if I haven't been there in a while, I'll be like, oh my God, this is pretty.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, we get to live here.
Yeah.
Like I it might only be a minute, but I get to see that.
Sure.
Like I'm not loaded and I see it.
Yeah. I mean, like connection with my higher power, love, gratitude, like all of those feelings, they all kind of sit in the same connection with like another human, like on a deep level. Those feelings all kind of sit in the same pocket for me. Like they all kind of like warm, consuming kind of, so this is good.
So you do feel gratitude. What do you do specific things to show it and not just feel like, if you're grateful for your daughter, do you give her flowers or something? Or, is there an action that you do for gratitude?
Absolutely. I mean, I tell people that I love them often. I bring the people that I love flowers.
Yeah.
And then you drink the water.
No, Tracy walked in the door this morning and she had flowers in her hand for us.
And they were in water that I still wanted to drink. So he's laughing at me because I wanted to put them in a vase of tap water so I could drink the water.
Yeah, that just sounded like
flower infused water.
Yeah.
No, yes. To me it hit me like, oh, she's trying to drink bong water. That's just weird.
Yeah.
But no.
Yes. I mean, I think that, I don't do it enough. Like I don't. So I share at meetings and I do service and I try and show up and I try and be present for people who I care about. I try and call people on their shit if I'm willing to stand there and love them enough to do it. Because sometimes you have to call your friends on your shit, on their shit. And they might not want to be friends with you anymore.
That's the
if you
friendship.
love them, right? That's friendship. And I think I try and do all of that because I am so grateful. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to give back. I'm not going to be able to give back to NA. I'm not going to be able to give back to my higher power. I'm not going to be able to give back to my friends. I I want to tell you enough how much I love you. And there's a lot of you. And so I try.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. On that friend topic, I learned some years ago, and I share it with the guys too, that a true friend is somebody that will tell you the truth regardless of their fear of the outcome. And
or regardless of your feelings too.
Yeah, I don't know how that fits in, but just that, because if you have fear of the outcome, that you'll not tell them the truth. And a true friend,
your fear or their fear, or
my fear,
your fear, yes, and you're talking about their fear.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about their, like, I know that if I tell this person who I care about very much that they're going to be upset, but I'm choosing to have this conversation because the way that I care about them as a human doesn't allow me to sit with this without having a discussion with them about it. So regardless of how they're going to feel, I'm still going to have the difficult conversation.
Yeah, that's without the fear of the outcome. Yeah.
And there's a fine line too between, like,
sure,
is it brutal honesty?
Well, I think
honesty?
the way it's communicated, if you can articulate it properly.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's also, like, waiting sometimes till somebody asks because they're not going to hear. I mean, there's so many different interpersonal.
All right. So that's showing gratitude. Here's a part that I think we kind of covered, is the abuse as a kid. But you've said that you've made progress on it not affecting relationships anymore. Does that still hold true? Like your childhood trauma, and we talked about the relationships, and that at some point you're still searching, or you find people that are like your dad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I married my dad, pretty much.
Yeah, don't say it like that. You married somebody similar.
Very similar. Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. I mean, not. But so
do you feel like you're now specifically past that point where that abuse is affecting your relationship? Now you recognized it, you're going to do something about it, and you're going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you feel that you're past that point of carrying it onto the next relationship?
I mean, hopefully. Like, I think that in all of the relationships that I've had, there have been stuff that I have learned. And so,
yeah,
I think, so you said, so I was like doing this meditation, and I realized that I needed to get out of the basement, but I also realized I didn't leave, right? I knew it was bad. And, like, I have this angry, we talk about our inner child all the time, and oftentimes we're talking about, like, the little one, but I also have, like, this angry inner teenager, right? Who's like pissed off at me because I didn't leave. I should have left sooner. And I'm doing this meditation, and I, heard basically, I didn't leave because I needed to be the one that could teach. I didn't leave because my dad didn't know how to respond instead of react. That was my purpose in this family.
So you were the caretaker?
Just from a soul level, I was thinking that my job was to, like, teach them or whatever. And then I realized afterwards, oh, no. I'm the one. Like, I need to learn how to respond and not react, right? Like that's it's not like, well, what I was going to teach them. It's like, if I want more for my kid and the rest of my generational line from now on, I'm the one who needs to learn how to respond and not react.
Yeah.
And so when my, partner gets triggered and I am afraid, what do I do?
You can only do the work inside your own hula hoop. Right.
And so I didn't know that before, right?
Gotcha.
I knew that I wasn't supposed to, like you're saying, you have to, like, take a minute and then come back. but I didn't know that I could take a minute and then do work on myself and then maybe not even need to come back. Like,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Really good point.
Nothing is a solution a lot of the time.
yeah. And sometimes there's a solution like that's actually like I need to do things for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Even if that requires you to find that boundary and set it, and then if it's not met, then walk away.
right.
Yeah.
Or for me, I notice that sometimes, like when I say no is a solution, like, or nothing is a solution.
Yeah, doing nothing.
Yeah, like I can, if I'm not careful, I can walk away so I don't react. Try to process with the idea that like I need to deal with this. This needs to be dealt with, and then I get an attachment to that idea, and then I can go back with a response that I didn't even need to bring back because of that attachment. You know,
That's when I tell Josh to do the 2-foot drop. Get out of your head and get into your heart. Most of my answers and solutions to problems is in my heart.
compassion.
Whatever
Understanding.
whatever comes up for you, whatever that feeling, because that's like, and this is what the next subject I want to talk about is higher power. That's where my higher power lives, is in my heart and my moral compass, right? I know right from wrong. My heart tells me that. And if I go through each day with the intention of causing no harm, I'm going to be a good human being that day.
And I'm going to be okay no matter what.
Yeah.
That part helps me like to practice. Cause like if I need to practice compassion for a situation that I feel like I need to control, I'm trying to control it because I'm scared. And I don't I don't like the outcome that I see. And so, like I can get to the compassion part, but then like I have to reinforce it with like, and I'm going to be okay no matter what. Like, regardless, I'm already okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to force anything to change right now.
I totally agree with you, Kevin. I like when COVID started and we started our little writing group. One of our friends introduced us to this meditation teacher called Sarah Blondin. And
That's my teacher.
No, she's mine.
She does meditation for me.
No,
she talks
I am the dear one.
I'm dear one.
I am dear one.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway.
Dear God.
Have you read her book?
No.
Because you aren't.
Don't stick your tongue out at me.
No, you're just as good as I am.
Do either one of you send her tips?
Yes, I do all the time. I send her tips. I bought her course.
Who sends the most tips?
Financially, probably. I don't know.
I don't.
I've sent probably 3 or 4 tips. And I bought the book and I bought the course.
Okay, you're way better than me.
I love her. I love her. And she's changed my life because she does say, that's the point, right? Like that's the point of being here is to come from your heart. And I believe her. And because she's loved on me so much and God's loved on me so much and all these people like, that's what I want to do for you. You know, that's.
She says cool stuff. I just like her voice.
I love.
Yeah, everything about that cadence, the process, the feelings, So if you're listening, her name is Sarah Blondin, and I find her on Insight Timer. Just we're throwing a plug out there for her. But yeah,
and you should all send her lots of tips.
So there's that's a good thing, right? So there's specific people or books or things in our life that change our life, and one of them for me in early recovery was Way of the Peaceful Warrior. That book was monumental for me to see a different perspective in life, and so it was kind of, and then Sarah Blondin, and there's others. So you think of like, I don't want to call them icons, but like people that you have specific things.
So much. Has taught me so much.
Yeah. Sarah Blondin.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you.
Swan.
My biggest teacher is Pain, man.
Huh?
Pain. It's my biggest teacher.
Well, so let me ask you this.
Oh.
What if you tried to work on going through each day not having pain?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Less and less pain.
Yeah.
My threshold my level of acceptance for the pain that I'm going through becomes
less
and less as I go
good.
through the process. But
That's good.
I still,
one of these days you're going to have balance.
I'm still
in your
stubborn.
life.
You know,
You are very stubborn.
Stubborn as fuck.
All right, but we're talking to
What?
Tracy.
Yeah, sorry.
You're
Tracy. Yeah,
Okay, I want more of that later, though.
we can talk about it now. That's
stubbornness.
No, like his pain. Like, I mean, is there a lesson or they're teaching?
Every
are you
time.
walking in it? Are you
Every time there's a lesson. Yeah, I mean, it's different every time. It's different every time. Some of it's repetitive, like the amount of time that I will sit in something before I'm able to snap out of it it's shorter, you know.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's just life, just being a human. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I'll tell you this: your brain manufactures a lot of it.
Oh, the majority.
Yeah,
but just sure.
Unnecessary pain.
Oh yeah,
unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, I'm relentlessly overstimulating myself.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you.
It never stops. I'm always trying to do something.
We are so similar, him and I.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. So Tracy, if she says she's going to be here at 10, then we should plan for 11.
I got here at 9:56.
No, and today is amazing.
She was fucking hauling ass when she came down the road too.
She tailgated you?
There was a dude walking his dog and she just dust clouded him, and I was like, this lady behind me, geez. And then she pulled in the driveway behind me. I was like, oh,
I'm sorry.
Great.
I'm sorry.
No.
Poor old guy and his dog.
But it's not just the fact.
I did try and slow down past him.
You caked him with dirt for sure.
The scheduling with you, it's like, because you're a very, very busy person.
Mm-hmm.
Does that affect you negatively?
Yes.
Yeah.
And no. I mean,
well, it does.
It does. No, it totally does.
I know
and
it does.
I also don't
care.
No, I don't. I totally care. I don't know how to be not interested in all the things I'm interested in.
Okay, there's balance, right?
I'm trying.
Yeah.
What are the things that take your time away from showing up on time or balance?
Well, I have ADD, and so
no,
diagnosed.
Not the reason. The things.
The plants, the dog, the books, the
rabbit. You still got the rabbit?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those all sound pretty healthy and normal and pretty sane.
But I have a lot of them. So it takes a long time to water all the plants. It takes, the dog needs to be walked and the bunny needs the things and I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of family.
That's the point I was getting at. That your friend circle is gigantic, and you schedule things with 40 people in 1 month, and there's not enough time.
Because there's not enough. There's too many people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What do? Be like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore?
No, you.
It's hard to pick and choose.
You have to
where your
figure that out yourself. For me,
I
I just look at my friends as we're organic, and I don't need to put any expectations on any of them. If we get together, cool. If we don't, I'm okay with that. Right? Yeah. So I don't see it as work.
I don't see it as work either. I mean, when you say to me, when are you going to come up? Because I haven't been here in 6 months.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
That's what I'm saying.
And so so I am here and then I'm there and then I'm there. And that's, I mean, it's interesting when I think of the things that's painful for me still. Some of the pain is wanting more for people than they want from themselves, right? And some of the pain is the inability to share life with all of the beautiful people that I know in a way that I would want to.
Okay.
Because there is literally not enough time in the world.
And you can't save everyone.
Not even people that I want to save, people that I actually just genuinely like spending time with.
Okay.
And I know that relationships need time. And I genuinely because I have ADD, when I am with somebody, I'm with them. And I like to be with them. And there's a lot of you. And so it's some of it is that I don't want to not continue those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, is there certain types of relationships that are different from others? Like, for example, my relationship with my friend Lori.
This is a good question.
We've been friends for my entire recovery. I love her to death. She is absolutely a sister to me. And, it'd be years that were thick as thieves. And then there'd be a couple of years that, I don't hear from her. Mm-hmm. And I love her unconditionally and wherever she's at. And sometimes I don't even know why she's not talking to me, mm-hmm. but it's okay. It's not my process. Mm-hmm. It's hers. Mm-hmm. And so I know today, if she called up and say, hey, I'm coming over, I go, fuck yeah, that's cool. We're going to go have some fun. But I'm not ever disappointed if we don't spend time together. Mm-hmm. I don't have any expectations on that. Mm-hmm. I love her unconditionally, mm-hmm. no matter what.
You're not worried about the condition of the state or condition of the relationship based off how often you see her.
It could go 2 years and then she could sit down next to me and it would be just like it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That type of relationship is different from trying to have to maintain connection all the time.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you say like trying to have to maintain. Yeah. Like I don't that's not my
You don't operate that way?
No.
Do you feel like this whole topic is generated off the idea that you're busy mm-hmm. and that you show up an hour after you say you're going to show up or mm-hmm. whatever? Does that cause any dysfunction for you with yourself in your own personal life? Like the fact that you may show up late or that you feel like you're pulled in 50 different directions, or like, do you find peace in that
chaos?
Yeah. Like or do you feel like there's something about it that's unhealthy?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, I've developed a different relationship with me and time, right? So I think that when I learned that I had ADD a long time ago, but when I learned that there's a time function dysfunction often to people who have ADD or ADHD, there was some freedom in that, right? Like I think it's going to take 10 minutes to like get all my stuff together and put it in the car.
Yeah.
But it actually takes 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And so like there was some freedom in that. I'm not an hour late. I'm like a half hour late. He's a little exaggerative. It depends, right? So some of it is like, there's a little bit of freedom that I've given myself that I don't feel that it's, that being said, I'm also pulled in 1,000 directions because I don't have where I have to maintain a relationship. Like I honestly think that my problem is that I have too many things that I am genuinely interested in. I don't have to maintain those. I want to. Okay. Like I want to maintain the friendships with the people that I love.
Where in all of that do you find balance?
So the answer to the question is no. It doesn't cause any dysfunction or
no. It does, okay. Right? Because I also have to take time for myself. And so pushing people out or saying no to all of the events I have learned to do over the years, because it does get where I'm not sleeping. I'm not taking care of myself. And, 4-step stuff, I learned that my job was to take care of other people. I was a daughter of somebody who had narcissism, and my entire job was to take care of her. Like make her happy, make sure her needs were met, make sure. And it wasn't only my job to take care of her, I was not supposed to take care of myself. Like it was against the rules for me to take care of my own self. Like it wasn't just that it was take care of her first and then take care of you. It was don't take care of you and only take care of me. And so I've had to learn to take care of me.
So self-care, what does it look like for you?
Now it is looking like where I take more time. I've been doing a lot of meditation. Like I want to exercise way more than I do, but I like to do yoga and I like to go to the gym and I like to do classes. And so, but it also looks like hanging out with my friends that I love. And, balance is hard, right? Like
It
we
is.
have friends and family and work and jobs and spirituality and exercise and food. And like, it's hard.
And the list changes
Right.
all the
Yeah,
time.
it's
All the time.
ever expanding or shrinking or changes.
So some of it's acceptance, right? Like I can't go to 5 meetings a week. Some of it is that I can't see you but 2-3 times a year.
And you are also one of those people that like it could be 6 months and we
Right.
sit down. We
Totally.
know
Exactly.
that it's unconditional love.
Yeah. I mean, spending less time arguing with my husband, that'll be good. Spending less time on Instagram would be good, but it's constant. I called my sponsor the other day and I was like, what do you, because I want to be more balanced. And so I've been trying to be slower. And I said, what do you think would be helpful for me to not be running 1,000 miles an hour all the time? And she was like, don't put things back to back. And so I've been thinking about that this week, like that I should maybe only do one thing a day other than what you have to do. Or sometimes, I actually said no to a service commitment 2 weeks ago. Somebody was like, please do this job. You'd be really good at it. And I would, and I want to, and I just can't. I have another one, but
Hey, I learned that for me, at least, it's always a work in progress,
Right.
Whatever that thing we're trying to fix. So I would like to get on the topic of spirituality. Let's talk about what your higher power looks like.
Well, the NA text taught me that the only thing that your higher power has to be is bigger than you and loving.
Yeah, well, we're not in a meeting or, this is...
This is me, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can guarantee and tell you that it is like love.
Yeah.
Because the form of that has changed a lot over the years.
Oh, good. Like, what did it look like? And then what does it look like now? Did you have like church in your or anything like that? Or?
My parents were, my mom's Jewish, my dad was Presbyterian. My parents were not spiritual. Like they didn't go to church or go to
right. They didn't
the
talk
Jewishness
about
was
power.
really like the family holidays, like not actually practicing.
Yeah.
Or even really knowing. My dad had gone to church when he was young, but then was like, no. They were very intellectual thinkers, believed in God, but basically what they said was, we come from 2 different religions. I did like a week of Sunday school, a week of Jewish something or other, and then you decide when you get older what you want to be.
Yeah.
Which was very freeing because I got to do
It's actually pretty insightful for them.
Yeah. It was very, so I did a lot of spiritual exploration when I was a kid.
Nice.
Like, what do all the religions say? What does, mysticism and spirituality on a different, non-religious thing look like? And when I got here, the only thing that I knew was that it wasn't a guy. Like I believed in a higher power or God or goddess or the universe. My understanding really, I guess the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
So I think that God is love, that my higher power is love.
So can you change your vocabulary
Uh-huh.
on that? Instead of saying think, feel, use feel.
I feel.
Yeah, good.
I believe.
Yeah. But it's in your heart, not in your head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're not thinking about it, you're feeling it.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I believe that, my higher power is kind of like a big ball of, sun energy. And that, all souls are connected to that and from that and return to that. I do believe in reincarnation, so I do think that there is like different things that we learn. And
reincarnation with like do you believe in the soul coming back?
I
or
do,
Is
actually.
that exactly what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think that there's, things that I think that connects all of the religions together.
Yeah.
You know, like they basically, the only thing they have in common is that like God is loving. And so there's different versions of, you know, who they might, but my understanding of my higher power is like loving all. So I don't think that there's like right and wrong or people who don't do a thing and that then don't get to go and be back with the big ball of love in the sky, you know.
Yeah.
And so I also, so when I came in, I was like, it's not a guy. And this wonderful woman said, it's not a guy for me either. And she and I both crossed out where it said he in the basic text. And I put it, I put she, I put they, I put a bunch of different things because I was understanding that all I had to do was be bigger.
So your higher power, he, she, they, not a he.
No, sure could be.
But I like the idea that you had, like it's a ball of energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you said sun, but I
Energy,
I kind of relate to that. Like I don't believe in a deity, and I don't believe in I guess I'm agnostic. Like I don't know what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have no idea. And I don't want to. I don't want to understand. I want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay in my heart.
Yeah.
So I feel my higher power. And to try and describe it, it would have to look like the spiritual principles. That's my higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the spiritual principles of the program help calibrate my moral compass. And that's kind of how I live. But I like the fact, because I get into, and you do too, nature for us.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally feel my higher power when I'm out in nature. Like I could sit in the back here in the forest and just stay silent and listen. You know,
When I go to the Bay Area, I feel like I am not supposed to be here.
Yeah,
That's what's happening inside of me.
I get it.
When I go to Southern California, the whole drive down there, I'm like, what in the fuck am I doing right now? And then I drive to Grass Valley and I come up over the ridge and I start dropping down into the valley, like right before McKnight, and all the pine trees start shooting up and my spirit goes,
It's a breath, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
That feeling. What a great feeling. And a lot of other people have it in a different way. Like, you know, and I know some people that like when they walk through their door at home and their dogs come to them, that's their connection. And they feel the love, right? Unconditional love from dogs. Cats, not so much. They're conditional. But anyway, so do you want to expand on your higher power? Or?
Sure.
That was a fucking loop-de-loop we just
Yeah.
went on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Kevin's higher power that we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes I want to relate.
We paused for a second for a snack break. And I
It
think
sounds like we probably all have the same higher power. Just like a thing.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I believe in God. I believe that or I don't believe in a deity. I believe the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh was the most true essence of what I think my higher power is.
Oh, yeah?
Absolutely.
What's the name again?
Conversations with God.
Okay.
And the author is?
Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay.
And so he, you know, got some insight that I totally think was from God. I think a lot of messages that I have gotten from, you know, different places have been messages from my higher power.
Gotcha.
So like I go celebrate. Oh, that's what we were talking about when we braked. That like for me, the celebration of that we are human beings and that we are blessed and that, you know, the goal is to live sort of a spiritual loving life.
Mm-hmm.
I can get from hanging out with people that are of a lot of different religious groups, as well as hanging out with friends and books and things. And so like I've gotten messages, like I go to church with my husband and I love celebrating in song, like the praise and worship and good kick-ass music where you say over and over again, thank you so much, God, I love you. For me is like, feels so good. It's like food.
Yeah.
And I also heard a message from like the story of when Jesus was on the cross and there was like a criminal next to him. And he said to God, his understanding of God, like, forgive them. They know not what they've done. What I heard in there is that God is absolutely like the desire is that we have the capacity to be forgiven for anything, that like God does forgive us and loves us unconditionally. And that allows me to celebrate with people who believe that God's a him. And I have the capacity to go and I do yoga, and I really believe in a lot of the like yoga parts of Hinduism and Buddhism talk about how the world and enlightenment is about developing our soul and spirit and, you know, going within and being able to like realize the part of you that is connected to God. And so when I go to nature, which is also like, I mean, I am a naturally naturey person, says my child, right? Like I have, you know, twigs and sticks and rocks in my car and all over my house. Like the magic that is nature and things that come from the natural world is of God to me. And Narcotics Anonymous is of God to me. And you are of God to me. And so my higher power is the love that like connects us all. And the spirituality, which says, you know, we talk about sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God. And I love that ACA says God as we understood God. I think that we tried to do that in NA for a really long time and it didn't work, but you know, maybe someday. Because I don't think that God is a he for everybody. But I believe in prayer and meditation improves my life and allows me to evolve spiritually. And so I do say thank you to my understanding of God, which is changing and varied and whatever, and is really nothing except love and that energy that connects us all.
It's nothing except everything.
Right. And then I believe in going inside and finding the part of us that is nothing and everything.
Yeah, the definition of my higher power is undefined.
Mm-hmm.
I like it that way.
Me too.
And it is unconditional love who accepts us exactly as we are. And the job, I think what the book Conversation with God talks about is how we have all these opportunities to develop who we want to be. Like that's the, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's my understanding sort of spirituality. Like
yours.
Mine.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's a really different outlook and it's really, I want to say dynamic, right? It's interesting. Mm. There's a guy that goes to meetings around here every once in a while. He will talk about, he'll just say, and I don't, you know, and the gods that I believe in. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I always thought that was really cool. He said gods, plural. And I think it's cool because he didn't feel the need to be defined by the status quo. Mm-hmm. And he's an individual, and we all get to make that choice of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that a lot of times people talk about how the word God is offensive to some people. And I totally get that because like organized religion in most ways is offensive to me. Like anybody who says that anybody else is better than anybody else. Like I just don't get that whole thing. However, I do understand that language and, you know, being able to communicate and the intricacies of language does allow the use of a word that is common by the culture that I live in to understand, you know, that I'm talking about something that's bigger than me that I can be a part of, but also I'm not the whole thing. But yeah, I think that like spiritual development for me is the goal.
You know, in our literature, it says the ultimate goal is to awaken spiritually. So
Didn't
that's
I just say that?
Yeah, it does. So, and I was doing some work with a sponsee, and this kind of topic came up, and I say that I'm agnostic, but I will use the word God, and for me, it no longer is offensive. Like for 15 years of my recovery, God was offensive to me, and I hated it. And now I've just learned how to use the word God as a place marker for whatever I believe in.
Yeah. And I like higher power too, you know,
Yeah,
and I like all that
both.
is. And I like, you know, there's so many different, you could spend your entire life learning about all of the ways that people celebrate the bigger thing that's, you know, or the other thing, or, you know, what does it all mean and stuff. It's, you know, it's fairly fascinating.
No, I think the turning point for me is when I realized that people weren't using the word God at me, right? Yeah. They were using the word God as a place marker for whatever they believe in.
Totally.
And it could be a deity or whatever. So to me, it's not offensive anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a difficult one for a lot of people.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to be difficult for you.
Okay.
What assets do you have that helps you be of service to others? Or let's just ask you about your assets.
I just said I try. Like, I try to come from the heart. I have a caring nature. I have done a lot of work. And so, therefore, I can walk with other people through work that's hard.
So, service to others. Okay.
I think I'm sometimes funny.
You are. Not just sometimes.
I don't know. I wrote down my sponsor, not my sponsor now, but my sponsor when I was new made me write down like the things that I wanted to be. If I died, what did I want people to say about me when I was new? And I've read that list a couple times since I've been clean. And
you still have it?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And like, some of them were things I wanted. Like, I wanted a motorcycle, and I don't have that yet. I wanted a leather jacket, and I wanted a house and home and
So things?
A thing. So some of them were things, but some of them were like, I wanted to be a member of society, and I wanted to be a good dresser, and I wanted to have peace in my heart, and I wanted to be accountable, and I wanted to have integrity. And like, as I read that list, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, I don't have the motorcycle, but like a lot of the other ones I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I feel like I have a lot of assets, and that sounds conceited. And I want other addicts to realize that they have a lot of assets, you know? So no, I mean, self-confidence, because I did a lot of work. There's a book called Self-Esteem. It's really good. I did the work, like the exercises. I like did them. And I think that, you know, it's not in all areas. There's still a lot of areas that, you know, I don't like, but I'm working on them. And so being willing to be humble, which means not just what's wrong with you, but also, I don't know.
Accepting yourself.
Right, exactly. Accepting yourself as you are means that you accept the things that are good. Like, I have horrible bags under my eyes, but I have good hair, you know, like there's goods and bads. Like, and so, you know, I'm a good person. I have the capacity to love, and I believe in empathy. And
I would pretty good list.
Yeah, no, I would make sure that you stay aware of the fact that your heart is the number one thing people feel when they get to know you. And it's not, I'm not talking about like just, you know, Joe Blow off the street. I'm talking about people that actually get to know you. And so your ability to be open-hearted,
vulnerable,
authentic. You're extremely authentic.
I want to be authentic.
You're extremely authentic.
Bold.
You are absolutely who you are on the outside and the inside. So that's an amazing asset. Like we know there's no pretense to any other like agenda or anything. You know, you are who you are. So that's a great asset. So that's what's attractive for me in our relationship is that you're totally authentic, genuine.
I'm snarky though too. Sometimes I don't like that.
I mean, that's part of you. Yeah.
Like I don't like that. You said, the book says something spiritual, and I'm like, that's what I just said. That's my fucking ego coming out. Like I don't like that part.
Yeah.
But and I can tell
you're human.
I'm human.
Yeah.
And it's like hard for me to hear other people sometimes say the assets, but
absolutely.
I appreciate them. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us something fucked up. Tell us a fucked up story that stands out when you think of, and this is different for everybody. So I would encourage you not to try to compare what you think other people would say to what your reality was. Something in your past that correlates with the dysfunction and the using that's loud in your memory, like something that stands out, like for an example, physical violence, getting arrested, I'm not saying those are the things you went through, but something like a story that stands out from addiction, active addiction.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything trauma related or whatever. When I was a little kid, I couldn't eat spinach. Like I couldn't stomach that. And and if you don't finish your food, you have to stay at the table until you do. And so everybody's gone, and I still hadn't eaten spinach. And so my stepmom shoved the spinach in my mouth, and I threw up on the table, and she shoved my face into the puke. And
Sorry.
and so that is something that carried on for me. Is that like I was triggered whenever I saw spinach? You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah. One for me is like I had very little to no self-confidence or self-worth as a kid. And I was in a lockdown facility. I was 15 years old. I probably right 15, somewhere around 15. And I was getting picked on all the time. And all of the other kids in that portion of the facility blocked me in a bathroom and forced me to fight somebody. And it was like a fucking let's get him kind of thing. And I hurt somebody really, really bad. And everybody was like, yeah. And I remember that feeling, like that stands out to me because that was my solution from then on. That was my solution. It's like, I'll just fuck you up. I'll just hurt somebody,
Yeah.
That stands out, like something from childhood that, stands out,
I think I need you to repeat the question, because what I hear is that somebody did something horrible to him, and I'm sorry.
It's not about him or me. It's just
No. But then somebody forced you to do something is like a different. Like, are you saying
no?
So I guess I don't understand the question.
Anything crazy?
Yeah,
in
it's
your
not
past.
it's not that complicated. Don't try not to make it more complicated. So it's literally, and you don't have to share anything. You can just say, I have nothing, and I don't want to talk anymore.
I have
So
tons of crazy.
It is just like something that stands out to you, like a memory that stands out that's kind of fucked up, or you think is crazy that somebody else may have gone through something similar, but hasn't heard anybody else share about it before. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, I know when I lived in LA for a while with an ex who was violent to me, and we did a lot of drugs, and
Violent, like he beat you?
No, he raped me, and I stayed there, and he raped me because I had been with his friend beforehand, And then I'm still staying there. And then I thought my nickname for a while was Rain. And then they were like talking to me on the radio, and there was like water it was like kind of the weird area of Los Angeles. And there was like, they were digging and the water was like day glow green. And I was like insane and not taking care of myself. And, and then I called my mom, and she put me in this like Scientology program where they forced me to stare at somebody, and it like, and I really thought that I was Bette Midler reincarnated for a while. And
sounds like a psychosis.
Pretty tight.
Yeah. And I still don't know whether the water in the thing was actually day glow, but like consciously, I can't really think that nobody else would have complained if it was actually like fluorescent green. Somebody might have complained who had a house. Crazy, I don't know, like just weird shit using. Yeah. Like I need just more. I
mean, that's a pretty good string of events.
Yeah.
You got rape, Dayglow green water, and
Scientology,
and Bette Midler. Mm-hmm. that's a pretty sweet combo.
I mean, rapes have kind of a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that like trauma that's not approachable right now?
No. I'm surprised it didn't come up earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, I think that in some ways, because it happened and I learned how to walk away, and it was before I got clean, or I eventually walked away. So two things happened. One, I really know what it means to check out. Like I learned as a kid to check out, like disassociation.
Yes.
So my mom could be screaming at me. Like she yelled at me for 23 minutes once because I left a bump of ramen noodle in the sink after the house had been clean. 23 minutes.
Okay.
So I know how to check out. But when I checked out then, when my boyfriend that I was living with was like abusing me because I had, fooled around with his friend when we weren't together, I checked out. Like I fucking checked out. And I literally understand how people do it. I also know that like, because I got out, anytime any relationship even got where I was like feeling threatened, I was like, I'm not doing this again. Like it was once. I'm really lucky. I am really lucky. Like I was listening to Steve talk about using and stuff. Like I did heroin one time.
Yeah.
And it put me to sleep. Like I don't remember it. I didn't feel good. And I feel like that was absolutely a gift from God.
Yeah.
Because that feeling that he talked about, I like want that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I still want that. I still want the like euphoria of drugs. I like the no feeling. I really like the connection with God or with, the universe or with the bliss. Like,
hence the psychedelic drugs.
Totally. Right.
I get that one.
But like, I feel like I have just fucking to do the work. So it's like, it was a gift that had happened and I got out and I don't have to do that again. It was a gift that I didn't like it. And I got to, use drugs that it didn't take me as long to get over. I feel like that the trauma of that,
the rape,
which seems to you like a big deal, was not as bad as the trauma of being in a abusive household for year after year after year and not being able to get out. And then abusing myself because I didn't get out.
Yeah, that's long term.
Yeah, it's also relative.
Yeah, and a rape is short term.
I was thinking about it after, because I kind of like laughed. I'm like, yeah, that's a interesting sequence of events. And I started thinking about it afterwards. And when you kept talking, I was like, I wonder if that's like normal to like, because somebody, I literally, I'm like, yeah, like trauma. Like I want like a relatable laugh, And I started thinking about that, like those things become normal to people that experience that kind of stuff. And it's, and you can compartmentalize it however, it's all so relative.
Yeah. Well,
And whose trauma? I mean, my kid had, I don't know, some dental procedure, something, I don't know. And I was like, I have so little patience and tolerance for non-pain. Like, I work with
you're a nurse.
I'm a nurse, right? And so people are in pain all the time, right? And sometimes they're in actual pain where they actually can't breathe. And, like it's like you can see the difference. And sometimes people are like, they hop on the table and I'm like, I'm having a 10 out of 10 pain. And I'm like, no, you're not. And so my child, who was not dying, was dying. She was little, and I was like in therapy and I was like, I don't have patience for her. I don't know what to do. And my therapist said to me, that's the pain that she's experienced. That's the only thing that she knows. And for her, it's very painful. She doesn't have any other reference. And so this is a big deal to her. And so it allowed me in some ways to understand, like, that was her trauma at that time. Different people have different trauma. I still sometimes have to, remind myself when they're hopping on the bed that then they're having 10 out of 10. Like, maybe they have mental trauma. Maybe they have childhood trauma. Maybe that, you don't know. We all have fucking trauma, right? I mean, really. It's the then using the trauma to like do something.
There's, when we talk about that trauma, that like a specific trauma and not a series of trauma throughout, continuous. I'm thinking about the rape, like, those specific things can be addressed in therapy and realized, and the emotional reaction can get shut down, and you can look at it as just fact, right? Mm-hmm. But that long-term years of trauma, for me at least, was way harder because it ingrained a personality in me. Mm-hmm. It was way harder to change. So I spent a lot of my kids' childhood reacting like my father. If I got frustrated, internally I'm just frustrated, but my wife and my kids will go, "Why are you so angry right now?" I'm like, "This isn't anger." You want to see anger? Look at my childhood. Ooh, anger is getting my lip bloody. Yeah. Anger is getting shit broke over my head. Anger is getting punched in the face. That's anger.
I said that in that was a thing with relationships for me early on in recovery, like me being frustrated and expressing myself, and the other person being like
so scared.
Like, yeah, terrified. And I'm like, I'm not even fucking mad.
Yeah.
Like, what makes you think I'm mad right now?
Your face.
Yeah. Well, I get that. Yeah, for sure. I know now.
Yeah.
I know now, but
that was a hard one.
It really felt like I'm just trying to explain to you what's going on with me right now. And, my way of explaining that was fucking a little bit unapproachable.
Yeah. So that's where I was able to explain to Jen, like, we all have a different scale. Mm-hmm. And so my scale doesn't match hers.
Totally.
Or theirs, the kids. And, it's just.
Yeah. And I think that, like, in some ways, because my trauma was so big, that thing was not, I was so used to pushing everything down.
Yeah.
Like, I just pushed everything down, right? Pushed everything down, but I'm still uncovering stuff. So when you say, like, that's anger, that you got punched in the face and he was angry, but underneath there is hurt, right?
Hurt for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, it's easier to sometimes do anger, and sometimes it's easier to do hurt, right? So, like, for me, for a really long time, like, some things I've been looking at lately is that I can be like, oh, I was hurt by my mom or hurt by my dad because, it's like they don't know, whatever. And now I'm being like, I'm also angry. And how do you get that out, right? So there's like, there's like hitting a tennis racket on a bed really hard, or going to the gym, or, running or yelling or screaming in a, there's a lot of ways to get anger out. And then there's also like, how do you get hurt out? And I think that those at different times for different reasons are like the work, when you said I need to step away and then you realize that you're like triggered by something. If you can then go, okay, well, like when you see spinach and you're like, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
like I want to hold the little kid that's inside of you that had that experience of, you know what I mean? Like that's
I do, yeah.
awful. And why are you laughing?
Because I want to feed him spinach.
Okay, well, stop it. I'm going to throw you in spinach.
He's just making light of it. It's serious, and
But it's not. It's horrible.
I get what you're saying.
It's fucked up. Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
but I'm at the point where it's just a fact that happened, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah.
I don't have that reaction.
Good example.
It is a good example. And as a my experience is that in some ways you're also allowed to sometimes hold that little boy inside of you and say that was awful.
Yeah.
And I love you,
Well, it
which
was awful.
helps get the anger or the being reacted to the spinach. Like sometimes the potential is that if you hold that kid enough, sometimes he will throw spinach at you and you'll be like, I don't care anymore.
I don't eat it, but like I'm not triggered by it anymore.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's ever going to make that little kid eat spinach again.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, and the reaction, or there is no reaction anymore. It's a response. It's like, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not. My adrenaline's not up. My cortisol's not up. None of that stuff. What's the other one? Adrenaline, cortisol, and some other chemical that jacks you up. Anyways, well, we thank you very much, Tracy, for coming out. I appreciate you very much and love you. And Josh loves you too.
Yeah, it was nice to get to know you a little bit.
You too.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody enjoyed the show.
Thanks, guys. Love
Thank
you.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Often you will hear addicts referring to a specific 12-step program or rehab. These are personal stories. We do not represent any of the programs.